the headlines. Again, court nullifies PDP governorship primary election in Zamfara. Court remands EFCC chairman Abdulrashid Bawa to Kuje prison. ASU accuses a federal government of attempt to turn lecturers to casual workers. And on the international scene, Uganda to close schools after 8 children die of Ebola. Hello and welcome to Trust TV News Update. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Hello and welcome once again. A federal high court in Gusau has again nullified the People's Democratic Party PDP governorship primary election for failing to give 7 days notice required to all contestants. The presiding judge, Justice Aminu Bappa, in his judgment said it amounted to breach of the first defendant guidelines. Bappa held that the plaintiffs are entitled to 7 days notice before the conduct of the primary election held on 23rd September. The report.
The judge invoked Section 84, Subsection 1 of the Electoral Act 2022 and declared that PDP cannot field any candidate for the forthcoming 2023 elections. The judge held that the conduct of the PDP governorship primary held on 23rd September is null and void. The court has placed an order for injunction restraining the PDP from forwarding the name of Dauda Lawal Dara as governorship candidate for 2023 elections on the ground of non-compliance with Section 84 and Subsection 1 of Electoral Act 2022. The court also restrained INEC from publishing Lawal Dare as the governorship candidate in Zamfara State for the 2023 elections. Counsel to the plaintiff, Ibrahim Ali, described the judgment as victory for democracy.
The court selected today for judgment, and judgment has been delivered in favor of the plaintiffs. The court held that the first defendant, that is the People's Democratic Party, did not comply with the mandatory provision of the Electoral Act, requiring them to give notice to INEC at least 21 days before the conduct of any convention for that party. Very excited. At least all our prayers have been granted. This is a victory for democracy. At least lawyers should be, restrained from filing any frivolous matters that they know that they cannot succeed in court, so that at least our judges will be relieved of all the stress they have been facing in dealing with election matters.
Federal High Court Gusau had on 16 September 2022 nullified the primary election conducted by the People's Democratic Party, in which Dauda Lawal Dare emerged as the governorship candidate of the party, and ordered that a fresh governorship primary election be held. A fresh primary election was conducted on the 23rd of September, on which Dauda Lawal Dare emerged as the PDP Zamfara State governorship candidate. Ibrahim Shehu and Hafiz Mohammed did not participate in the exercise, but insisted a suit challenging the process.
Meanwhile, presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Bola Tinubu, has promised farmers that agricultural transformation will be one of the major economic drivers if elected president in 2023. Tinubu said this at a town hall meeting with representatives of agro-commodity groups from the 19 northern states in Minna, Niger State. He urged heads of cooperatives and association of farmers to mobilize their members to vote for APC, which has a plan to develop the agricultural sector from subsistence to commercial level in order to achieve food sufficiency in the country. He said the meeting was one of the critical engagements to enable him understand the challenges facing farmers and farming activities in order to achieve food sufficiency through mechanized agriculture and improved value chain.
This is back. Help is here. Prosperity is with the farmers, and they are all here. You are the fishermen, you are the corn grower, you are the yam tuber producers, you are the heart of agriculture and heart of the prosperity and sustenance of peace, stability, and joy of our country. Thank you very, very, very much. I hereby promise you farmers, I've heard quite eloquently and richly a very, very thoughtful and fundamental paper from Atiku Bagudu.
An Abuja High Court sitting in Maitama has remanded the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Abdurrashid Bawa, for contempt of court. The FCC chairman was convicted on Tuesday in relation to the anti-graft agency's failure to comply with an earlier order of the court. The court had ordered EFCC to return to a defendant, a former Director of Operations at the Nigeria Air Force, Air Vice Marshal Rufus Adeni Ojuao, his Range Rover and 40 million naira. The FCC had arraigned Ojuao on a 2-count charge before Justice Muawiyah Baba Idris of the High Court in the FCT in Nyanya in 2016. Ojuao, in a suit filed by his lawyer, R.N. Ojabo, explained that the EFCC declined to comply with the order for the release of his seized property made by the court in a judgment delivered on November 21, 2018. However, the presiding judge, Justice Chizoba Orji, in a ruling on Tuesday, held that the chairman should be committed to prison at Kuje Correctional Center for his disobedience until he purges himself of the contempt. Meanwhile, after months of postponement, a United States court in Los Angeles, California on Monday sentenced international fraudster Ramon Olarunwa Abbas, popularly known as Hush Puppy, to over 135 months, which is over 11 years in federal prison. The U.S. District Judge Otis D. Wright II ordered the 40-year-old convict to pay over $1.7 million in restitution to 2 fraud victims, according to a statement sent by the court. The judge said Hush Puppy conspired to launder tens of millions of dollars through online scams and flaunted his luxurious crime-funded lifestyle on social media. He pleaded guilty in April 2021 to 1 count of conspiracy to engage in money laundering 10 months after he was arrested in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, in June 2020. Hush Puppy has remained in U.S. federal custody since his expulsion from the UAE. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, says it is considering challenging the federal government in court for paying its members what it described as so-called pro rata payment for 18 days as October 2022 salaries. The union also said the government's so-called pro rata payment is not only an aberration, but a contravention of all known rules of engagement in any contract of employment for academics the world over. President of the union, Emmanuel Osodeke, who stated this after a marathon National Executive Council meeting, which started on Monday and ended early Tuesday morning, argued that his members are not casual workers, but intellectuals who cannot be paid on pro rata basis. Although the union leader is silent on whether they would embark on another strike, he, however, appealed for the understanding of Nigerian students, parents, and other genuinely concerned individuals and groups in the country. Reading the communique issued at the end of the meeting, Osodeke said the government's action to pay academics like casual workers is unprecedented in the history of university-oriented labor relations. The United Kingdom Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO, on Monday updated its travel advisory for Abuja, warning against all but essential travel to Nigeria's political capital. In a statement, the FCDO warned British nationals to avoid 22 states in Nigeria. The FCDO said its travel advisory is constantly reviewed to make sure it reflects the current situation in Abuja and Nigeria. The statement also noted that the British High Commission in Abuja is open from Tuesday, 8th November 2022 for normal services. The UK and the United States had in October warned of possible terror attacks in Abuja, especially at government buildings, places of worship, schools and other centers where large crowds gather. Both countries also commenced the evacuation of their citizens from the Nigerian political capital. However, the federal government dismissed the terror alerts, saying Nigeria is safer than in May 2015 when President Muhammadu Buhari came into office. The Director General, National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, Mustafa Mohammed, has raised the alarm that Nigerians should expect more devastating floods in 2023. The DG stated this while appearing before the Senate Committee on Special Duties, headed by Senator Yusuf to defend the 2023 budget proposal of his agency. Mustafa Mohammed urged governments at all levels to brace up for the challenges ahead by establishing local emergency committees in order to mitigate the devastating impacts of floods and other disasters across the country. The Hydroelectric Power Producing Areas Development Commission, HYPADEC, has announced plans to provide 250 housing units for those displaced by floods in riverine communities in its catchment areas. This is one of the high points of the Commission's medium-term strategic plan 2022 to 2027, presented at its stakeholders forum held in Ilorin, the Kwara State capital. The report.
Several states have been ravaged by flooding this year, and for some, it has become a perennial occurrence, with lives and properties destroyed and many residents displaced. Some hydroelectric power-producing areas are not left out of this disaster.
We know that we've got 3 dams upstream here. The Niger, the Kainji, Jeba, and Shiruru. And my problem is, can you get a researcher paid on your funds, not necessarily for a degree, but if it goes for a degree, good, that can coordinate the events of water from upstream, coordinate it, so Kainji can let go its water earlier. And then they can coordinate with Shiruru, release water now. Because what happened this year was a deluge. Even areas that were never flooded before got flooded.
There are some areas that the riverine area that this flood is affecting seriously. Then likewise, we want the HYPADEC also to intervene, to assist and come to the aid of the Kwara State government to look into the road from the Araro village in Jeba that leads to the Kayama area. Because that area is where the peppermint forest was before in the 70s.
This is why the Hydroelectric Power Producing Areas Development Commission is now set to provide 250 housing units for some flood victims.
And the issue of intervention to communities that have persistent flooding, we don't have that much challenge in Kwara from our report. The major communities we have such challenges are in Niger State, Kogi State, and some part of Kebbi State.
Also in its medium-term strategic plan, the Commission plans to empower 60,000 skilled and unskilled youths within the next 5 years to take them out of poverty. In this regard, non-graduates will be trained in vocations such as tailoring and painting, while graduates will be trained in advanced skills such as ICT, installation of closed-circuit camera television, and solar panels, among others. The hydroelectric power-producing states are Kwara, Niger, Kogi, Benue, Kebbi, and Plateau states.
You're watching Trust TV News Update. And still ahead. Patronize local barbers. This and so much more after the break. Do stay with us.
This is the road leading up to the Lokoja Bridge from Abuja, and as you can see, tankers carrying fuel, trucks carrying livestock, perishables, and commuters trying to make their way from point A to point B have all been slowed down as a result of the flooding going on in Lokoja.
As I tell you, so my house is inside water like this.
This is my house. This music is my house.
We have no option than to come here and look for what we chop.
This water have really spoiled many things. Even as I'm talking to you, I'm not in my own house.
I want to encourage them and assure them that their government, the governor they elected, had come to see them, and government officials have been going there to see them. They are not in this alone. We are with them.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us on Trust TV News Update. Now let's take a look at our top stories. Again, court nullifies PDP governorship primary election in Zamfara. And court remands EFCC chairman Abdulrashid Bawa to Kuje prison. Now moving on to other news. Now, what comes to your mind when the woman is tagged as the breadwinner in a family where the man is still alive, healthy, and not incapacitated? Well, answers to these questions has more often than not, elicited different reactions or outright judgment from people for one reason or the other. Now, in this report, Noel Sampson takes us through the path of this rather tricky issue and speaks with experts on how best to handle such a situation. The report.
The term breadwinner is thought of originated in the UK in the 1820s. Bread from that time to date is considered as a daily necessity in the home. Providing bread and other daily necessities is what has gradually accepted as breadwinning. Traditionally, the father or the man of the house is originally vested with the responsibility of providing for the day-to-day running of the home. However, with women now sharing in the responsibility, the term is gradually assuming a different meaning.
When you have a woman earning more, maybe $1 million in a month, and the husband is earning like 300,000, and probably they are living in Abuja here, or they are living in Lagos, or any parts of the country. Definitely, if you look at it, the gap is so wide. Now, things like this, we've seen situations where this may be the base of the end of that marriage before you know it. So it now comes to the point where the two individuals involved in this marriage, which is the man and the woman, coming to sit down together, having understanding and communication. To all women outside there, if you are the breadwinner, in your own home, it calls for a need for you to have a clearer and a healthy communication with your partner if you're married.
However, different individuals have different notions concerning the issue of the woman being breadwinners in the family.
Some men of these days now, they are just lazy. Men are lazy, and so the painful part of it is that sometimes when woman they provide, woman can do everything in house. The husband self, they not even appreciate women.
And when once man taking care of many things in our home, feeding the husband, feeding children, before you could, people will hear it outside that they are the one taking care of the. She will not be happy with the husband. You see the husband as a lazy man, a man that doesn't have sense. That other men are out there looking for. She forgot that from the beginning it wasn't like that.
This situation where women in the homes where their men assume the role of the breadwinner has led to crisis for several reasons. Experts have advised that adequate communication and understanding between couples will help solve the problems caused by women being breadwinners in the family. Noel Sampson, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Now, local barbers in Kano are often considered as traditional health practitioners, specializing in women and children's illnesses. While some patronize them because they cannot afford medical bills at the conventional hospitals, others believe in the efficacy of herbal medicine. In this report, Trust TV's correspondent meets with one of the herbal medicine practitioners who believed that the practice can help reduce pressure on conventional health institutions if properly supported by the government. His report.
For several months, Habiba Sani has been suffering from menstrual problem leading to a frequent abdominal pain. Despite her repeated visit to the hospital, her problems still persist. But with the help of this traditional physician, Habiba is now free.
Da ina fama da ciwon mara, ɗaukewa al'ada, na yi kusan shekara ɗaya al'ada ta bata zo ba, amma cikin ikon Allah tun da na zo yake bani magani yanzu komai na ya dawo daidai. Wallahi magungunan shi alhamdulillah ba abin da za mu ce wa Allah sai godiya.
Operating opposite the exit gates of the Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital, Musa Kawu is an itinerant barber, otherwise known as Wanzami among the Hausa people. He specialized in offering traditional health assistance to mostly women and children. A practice Musa inherited from his mother.
We do give medicines of various diseases as we inherit from our parents. These diseases include those of children and adults.
Although believed to be effective by many, especially these women who queue in here on a daily basis, but conventional health practitioners argued that this unorthodox practice is a double-edged sword.
Traditional medical practice has been recognized by the World Health Organization as well as the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria to such an extent that the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria registers traditional medical healers. So one cannot completely rule out the possibility that there is some benefit to be derived from such a practice. But then on the other side, many of them try to do a practice where some mysterious activities are involved.
But not for people like Musa, who believe that with strict supervision and regulation by government authorities, traditional health practice can significantly reduce the burden and pressure on conventional healthcare institutions across the country. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
Now, the scarcity and hike in the price of petrol has continued to cause untold hardship on Nigerians. Trust TV correspondent gives us an update from Makudi.
PMS distribution in Benue State is gradually sending motorists into serious uncertainty as the scarcity of the product has reached its peak.
Experience is not funny. As you can see, we are queuing up. I've been looking for fuel. I live far away from here, and I've been looking for fuel down until I got to this place, just to queue up for fuel again. So the experience is not funny. The issue is not even the rise in the price. We can't even find it. Even with the rise in the price, we can't get fuel to buy.
A few filling stations can be spotted with the product, and even then, the pump price is between 230 and 300 naira per litre.
Fuel we have in Nigeria, we cannot produce. We produce it and sell to other countries who buy and sell at lower price. But here in Nigeria, every day you wake up, they decide to go up. So it has not been easy for we who are poor people to cope. But the big man there did not know how we are suffering. Since morning, I've been looking for fuel in town. I managed to get it here in this filling station, but the price.
So frustrating. It's just really very frustrating. Throughout the year, we've been having different prices of fuel. Today you see it 180, tomorrow you see 200, tomorrow, and I mean, it's just so crazy as a country. We can't even explain, and there's never a reason why for all these things about the fuel. We have seen it today, 235. What next tomorrow? It's just so frustrating.
The line is long and the fuel price has increased terribly.
The motorists are demanding explanations as to why the scarcity and hike in price. They said as it stands, many are wondering what is the true situation in the sector.
Help us out of this mess because we don't even know what is happening. We learned that the subsidy has been removed or whether it's still there. We cannot even tell what is happening because nobody is talking about it. So we don't know what is happening. They should just come to our aid. The suffering is too much.
Like the federal government to at least reduce the scarcity and the price so that it will be more like efficient for us to get and buy large quantities, something like that.
With the Christmas season inching closer, Makudi residents are calling on the government to look into the problem before the holiday season.
Now for a look at the foreign scene, where Uganda will close schools nationwide later this month after 23 Ebola cases were confirmed among pupils, including 8 children who died. the country's First Lady said on Tuesday. Janet Museveni, who is also the Education Minister, said there had been cases in 5 schools in the capital Kampala, as well as the neighboring Wakiso district and Mubende, the epicenter of the outbreak. Uganda's last recorded fatality from a previous Ebola outbreak was in 2019. And the Pacific island nation of Samoa on Tuesday announced preparations were underway to host a 2024 Commonwealth Summit, the first of such events of King Charles III's reign. Representatives of the mostly 56 former British colonies met in Rwanda this year, just months before Queen Elizabeth II died in September. During her 70-year reign, the British monarch headed the organization and became its most vocal champion. With the future and mission of the organization now the subject of speculation, Samoa said it is pressing ahead with plans for the 27th Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting 2 years from now. King Charles's participation has yet to be confirmed, but he also has also been a vocal supporter of the voluntary association, which encompasses 2.5 billion people. And in sports, Rivers United, one of Nigeria's representatives in this year's CAF Confederations Cup, have cried out over the welcome they received upon their arrival in Benghazi, Libya, ahead of a second-leg playoff with Al Nassr on Wednesday. Having beaten Al Nassr 5-0 in the first leg at the Adokie Amisimaka Stadium in Port Harcourt, Stanley Aguma and his men arrived in Libya on Monday against the expectation of their hosts. But what they met was, according to them, not an ideal atmosphere. Media officer of the team, Charles Mayuku, in a statement said, amongst other things that was not in place upon arrival, there was no provision for transportation, and they were asked to pay for their own transportation. And that wraps up Trans TV News Update for this hour. For more news, you can subscribe and follow us across all our social media platforms. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Thanks for watching.